Chapter 10. Sinking, Not Swimming. For a few days after his dismissal from Fenton's, Eddie actually felt quite excited. He was relieved. A great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. But this feeling did not last long, and he soon started to feel irritable and later on angry. For weeks, he couldn't get Fenton's and Neil and Dominic out of his mind. He thought over and over again about the injustice of it all. He thought about all the arguments and frustrations, all the work he had done, all the work he could have done, wasted. He missed his colleagues and a sense of belonging, and he missed going to Russia and working with Dima and the team. To cheer himself up, he tried to remind himself that, apart from people like Dominic, there were things he would not miss, like emails. On the day Eddie left Fenton's for the last time, there were over 400 unanswered emails in his inbox. Eddie always tried to get back to people, but it had become impossible. Every time he got rid of one email, a dozen more would appear within half an hour. The world had gone mad, he thought. At first, like everyone else, Eddie had welcomed the new form of communication. It was neat, cheap, fast and flexible, but soon it dragged him down. He didn't like to admit it, but Dominic was right about not reading emails. They were never-ending. Dominic. Back in his mind again. Many times he had had terrible thoughts about what he would like to do to Dominic, and to Neil for that matter. He thought of storming into the office and using Dominic's own golf clubs to smash up computers and break windows, and then going into the car park and doing his worst on Dominic's Mercedes. The shiny paintwork, the windows, all slashed, scratched and broken. It felt good, but his conscience would not let him. In the end, he followed Lynn's advice, which was to get out of the house more and go for walks or go swimming, keep busy, get some exercise. They lived 2 miles from their local sports centre, so every morning Eddie got up with Lynn and then walked through the park to the pool at the sports centre. He made this his morning routine, but he couldn't get used to being in a swimming pool on a weekday morning at 10 a.m. He normally swam after work, so it was strange for him to find the pool almost empty, except for some elderly swimmers and sometimes small school groups. As he sat in the cafe afterwards, drinking a coffee or two, he always felt better. He wanted to stay there all day and hide. Then his heart would sink at the thought of heading home to nothing. In fairness, Eddie had started looking for jobs in the same week that he was fired, but as depression set in, he lost interest and motivation. Then, to his alarm, he lost confidence. In a way, this was worse than the depression, but these were all new feelings and he was overwhelmed. Everything he had done seemed meaningless, and he wondered how he would ever do a serious job again. He and Lynn had enough money saved to last for about 4 months, but the time soon passed and there were no vacancies. His chances with the best companies in his sector were also harmed by the news of his dismissal over the budget fiasco. By the time there were a couple of opportunities, Eddie was physically unwell, and his doctor had agreed he was not fit for work. It took time for sickness benefits to be paid, and with the two of them living on Lynn's small teaching salary, the financial pressures grew. Bills turned into reminders, reminders turned into final reminders, and final reminders became phone calls from angry gas and electricity companies, TV companies, and insurance companies. Then finally, the bank called. Eddie was having a bad day anyway. This was the last thing he needed. "Hello, Mr. Munro, this is CNTS Bank. May I ask you some security questions?" said a young male voice. "Not really," said Eddie. He almost hung up straight away. "I just want to ask you some security questions and then talk to you about your account," the voice insisted. "Well, how do I know you're the bank? You could be anyone," said Eddie. He had decided to stay on the phone, but he wasn't going to make it easy for the person at the other end. "I can assure you this is the CNTS Bank calling." "Okay, then, well, I can assure you that this is Mr. Munro. What do you want?" "I can't do that, Mr. Munro. I need to ask some security questions." "Well, my bank told me not to give my security questions away." "Mr. Munro?" "Ah, you don't know I am Mr. Munro yet, do you?" said Eddie. When is your date of birth? I'm not telling you that until you prove you are the bank. All right, sir. Ask me a question about your account. Okay, how much money is in my account? I can't tell you that. I have to ask you some security questions first. Eddie hung up. 30 seconds later, the phone rang again. Eddie considered ignoring it, but he was bored and was enjoying being in control for once. Hello? Good morning, Mr. Munro. This is CNTS Bank. Hi, how are you? The voice didn't know what to say for a moment, but then sprang back into action. I'm fine, thank you, sir. Eddie had to admit that the young man was professional. If he was annoyed, he was hiding it well. Eddie felt a little guilty. The man was only doing his job. Then he thought of Dominic and Neil and what bosses like them would do to such youthful enthusiasm. He realized that the voice was still speaking, but Eddie wasn't paying attention. Sorry, I wasn't listening, he said. Oh, that's okay, sir. I was just saying that we need to talk to you about your account, and I can get my supervisor if you wish. Eddie decided to give some ground. This was getting boring. Go on, I believe you. You're CNTS Bank. What do you want? Thank you, Mr. Munro. I just need to ask you some security questions. Is that okay? Fine. Thank you. Can you confirm your telephone banking password? Chinatown. Thank you. And can you give me the second and last numbers in your security code? 8 and 3. Thank you, Mr. Munro. You're welcome. That completes the security with you. I'm so pleased. I was calling because your account had insufficient funds to pay some direct debits this month, and your credit card with us is now stopped until you make further payments. Great. Thank you for telling me. Goodbye. No, Mr. Munro, you are currently overdrawn by £3,478.11, and the balance on your credit card is £4,490.30. I have to ask if and when you will be making payments into your account. I have no idea. I've lost my job and I can't work. I'm thinking of doing the lottery on Saturday, so give me a call on Monday and I'll tell you if I can pay you or not. If it helps, I'll enter my bank account number and see if it wins. Mr. Munro, my supervisor is here. He would like to have a word with you. Would that be okay? Not really. Eddie hung up. This time the phone did not ring again, which surprised Eddie in a way. He walked slowly into the kitchen, made a coffee, picked up the newspaper and sat in an armchair to flick through the pages to see what was on TV.